All right, so you're thinking about walking the Camino de Santiago. That's amazing. We've been digging into your research and, it's pretty inspiring stuff. But I gotta admit, when I first heard about the Camino, I just pictured like one long, solitary path.
Yeah, it's a pretty common misconception. The Camino de Santiago, it's not just a single trail. It's actually this whole network of ancient routes,
Yeah.
all leading to the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in Spain. So it's more about the journey, the personal transformation, not so much a fixed route.
That's fascinating. And it looks like there are tons of different Camino routes, each with its own vibe. So how do you figure out which Camino is right for you? Where do we even start?
Well, I guess we could start with the most popular one, the Camino Frances, which is also called the French Way. It's about 780 kilometers, starting in France and winding through Spain. It's super well marked, with plenty of albergues and support along the way, so you're never really alone on this one.
Okay, that makes sense for a first timer, right? It's kind of reassuring to know there's support if you need it. But what if you're looking for something less crowded, something a little more, I don't know, contemplative, something a bit more off the beaten path?
Right. Well, in that case, the Caminho Portuguese might be more your style. It's called the Portuguese Way. It's known for its gentler terrain, and it passes through these really beautiful historic towns. You can even choose to start in Lisbon or Porto. So that adds another layer of like personalization to your pilgrimage.
Ooh, I can already picture myself walking through those cobblestone streets. And just to be clear, both of these routes lead to the same place, right? Santiago de Compostela.
That's right. And once you reach Santiago, you can get a Compostela. It's this certificate that shows you've completed at least 100 kilometers of the Camino.
Yeah.
It's more than just a piece of paper, though. It represents all the dedication and resilience of every pilgrim.
Wow, I can see why that would be so meaningful. Okay, so we've got the classic French way and the more peaceful Portuguese way. Now, what if you're craving a bit more adventure, something a little more rugged?
Well, for those who want like dramatic coastal views and a bit more of a physical challenge, there's the Camino del Norte, the Northern Way. It follows the northern coast of Spain. You get breathtaking scenery, but you also have some pretty challenging ascents. I read that even medieval kings liked this route because it was so secluded and beautiful.
That sounds incredible. It really does seem like there's a Camino for everyone, no matter what your fitness level is or how much solitude you're looking for. But now I gotta ask, what if someone wants a truly, transformative experience, something that really pushes their physical and mental limits?
Ah, well, in that case, there's the Camino Primitivo. This route's known for its mountainous terrain, very demanding climbs. Definitely not for the faint of heart. But if you're looking for a real test of your endurance and spirit, the Primitivo gives you this profound sense of accomplishment. There's even this stretch through the Asturian mountains where, for miles, it's just you, the path, and nature.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. There's a Camino for everyone. But what about those of us who, well, let's just say, are a bit time crunched?
Uh,
Can you still do the Camino if you don't have, weeks or months off?
Absolutely. You don't have to walk the entire route to get something out of the Camino. Lots of pilgrims just walk shorter sections. Maybe they focus on the last 100 kilometers to earn the Compostela. It's all about making it work for you.
That's so encouraging. It makes the Camino seem accessible to so many more people. But before we get carried away with all this wanderlust, what's the most important thing for a potential pilgrim to think about when choosing their path?
Honesty. Be honest with yourself about your fitness level. What can you realistically handle? There's some great resources, like those Camino Fitness ebooks, that offer training plans to help you prepare for your specific route. It's about setting yourself up for success, not just for suffering.
That makes total sense. You don't want to turn a soul-stirring journey into some grueling test of your limits. It's about finding that sweet spot between challenge and enjoyment.
Exactly. It's finding that balance where you're pushing yourself enough to grow, but not so much that you miss out on all the beauty and wonder of the Camino.
I love that. Okay, so picture yourself walking these paths, all that history, those landscapes, the other pilgrims. Which one speaks to you? Which one feels right for you right now? Hold on to that feeling because we're about to talk about something else super important. When to actually go on this amazing adventure.
Yeah, you're right. Picking the right time of year for the Camino is really important. It can totally change the whole experience.
Okay, so let's unpack that. What are the big things to keep in mind about the different seasons? And how does that affect the journey?
Well, if you want good weather and not too many crowds, spring or early autumn are generally the best. Temperatures are mild, and you'll have more space to, enjoy the quiet side of the Camino.
Yeah, those shoulder seasons sound really appealing. But what if you're someone who just thrives on that vibrant summer energy? Can you do the Camino in the summer?
Oh, for sure. Summer is definitely the liveliest time, full of energy and camaraderie, but it's also the hottest, especially if you're doing an inland route like the Camino Frances. So you want to be prepared for that heat and pack accordingly.
So maybe not the best choice for those who, wilt in the heat. But if you're someone who loves that coastal breeze, you could always opt for the Camino del Norte, right?
Exactly. Those coastal routes are a little more forgiving in the summer with those nice ocean breezes. You can even cool off with a swim in the Atlantic. It's
Hmm.
about, being strategic and picking a route that fits you.
That's a great point. Okay, so we've got spring and autumn for mild weather, summer for that buzzing energy. What about those brave souls who are drawn to, like, the solitude and beauty of winter?
Winter on the Camino. It's definitely a unique experience. Imagine having those ancient paths pretty much to yourself. Super peaceful, super tranquil. But winter also comes with its own set of challenges. Mountain passes can be dangerous with snow and ice. Some routes might even be closed because of the weather.
So, winter's for the truly adventurous, those who are ready to embrace the unpredictable side of the Camino.
Exactly. No matter what season you're leaning towards, just take a minute to really visualize yourself on that path. What kind of atmosphere are you looking for? Do you want to be surrounded by other pilgrims sharing stories? Or are you looking for something more introspective?
I love that imagery. It's about figuring out what your heart really wants from this experience. Okay, I have to admit, I'm already starting to think about my Camino packing list. What are some absolute essentials? What can't we leave home without?
Well, before you go crazy with packing cubes and merino wool, let's start with the most important thing, footwear. You're going to be walking like a LRT, so you need a good pair of hiking boots or trail runners. Make sure they're supportive and broken in.
That makes perfect sense. You don't want to be dealing with blisters and foot pain while you're trying to have this profound spiritual experience. Any particular brands or models you recommend?
Oh, absolutely. Salomon and La Sportiva make really great hiking shoes, known for being durable and comfortable. When it comes to choosing between hiking boots and trail runners, think about the terrain and the season. Hiking boots give you more ankle support, which can be helpful if the terrain is rocky or uneven. Trail runners are lighter and more breathable, so they're good for warmer weather, or if you prefer a more minimalist approach.
Okay, that's super helpful. So, comfortable footwear is a must. But I know there's a big emphasis on packing light for the Camino, and honestly, I'm someone who likes to be prepared for anything. How do I find that balance between being prepared and not weighing myself down?
That's where the art of multipurpose gear comes in. Try to think about items that can do more than one thing, like a quick-drying microfiber towel that can double as a beach blanket, even a picnic blanket. A sarong can be a scarf, a head wrap, or even a makeshift curtain if you need more privacy in a crowded elbow.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. So it's about being strategic and choosing items that can pull double duty or even triple duty. What about those little luxuries that can make a big difference in terms of comfort?
Those are definitely important. You might want to pack a pair of comfy sandals or flip-flops to give your feet a break at the end of the day. And a small inflatable neck pillow can be a lifesaver on those long bus or train rides between starting points.
Brilliant. I am all about those little comforts.
Mm.
Okay, so we've got supportive footwear, multi-purpose gear, and our little comfort items. What else should we keep in mind when packing for the Camino?
Layers, layers, layers. The weather on the Camino can change so fast, so you need to be ready for anything. Pack a lightweight, breathable base layer, a warm fleece or down jacket, and a waterproof, windproof outer shell. And don't forget those extras, like a hat, gloves, and a buff. Those are great for protecting your face and neck from the sun and wind.
I'm writing all this down. Okay, so we're dressed for success, we're packing light, but we're also prepared for anything. What about those essential safety items? What should every pilgrim have in their backpack?
Safety first, always. You definitely need a small first aid kit. Just the basics like bandages, antiseptic wipes, pain relievers, and blister treatment. You might even want to carry a whistle or a personal alarm for extra security, especially if you're walking alone or through more remote areas.
That's a good point. It's always better to be prepared, right? Okay, so we're packed and ready to hit the trail, but now we have to think about, the practical side of things, the budget. Is the Camino an expensive trip?
Not necessarily. You don't need to be rich to experience the magic of the Camino. The beauty of it is in the simplicity, but you do need to understand the main expenses.
Okay, let's break it down. What are the main costs we need to keep in mind when we're making our Camino budget?
The three big ones are accommodation, food, and transportation. Accommodation can range from budget-friendly albergues, which are like dormitory-style lodgings, to more private hostels or even guest houses.
Now, you mentioned albergues earlier, but remind me, what are they like? What can we expect?
Think of it as a communal experience. You're sharing a room with other pilgrims, people from all over the world. Albergues are usually pretty basic beds, bathrooms, and sometimes a shared kitchen. It's a great way to meet other pilgrims and share stories from the trail.
That sounds like a really cool way to immerse yourself in the Camino community. But what if you're someone who values their privacy? Are there other options?
Oh, for sure. If you want more privacy or comfort, you can go for private hostels or guest houses. They'll usually have private rooms or smaller dorms, and they might have extra things like laundry or breakfast included. Of course, those options can be more expensive than the albergs.
So it's about finding the right balance, right? Between your budget and your priorities. Now let's talk about food. What are the best ways to keep our bellies happy and our energy levels high while we're on the Camino?
There are lots of ways to fuel your Camino adventures. Many towns along the route have these pilgrim menus, which are fixed-price meals that are both delicious and affordable. They're a fantastic way to try the local cuisine without spending a fortune. And if you prefer to cook your own food, many albergs have shared kitchens, and there are grocery stores in most towns where you can stock up.
Okay, so you can choose to eat out, try your hand at cooking, or do a mix of both. Now, what about transportation? What costs should we factor in for that?
You'll need to think about how you're going to get to your starting point and back home from your ending point. That might mean flights, trains, or buses, depending on your route and your overall travel plans. And then, once you're on the Camino, you'll be walking, of course. But you might also want to factor in some local buses or taxis, especially if you're covering longer distances or skipping sections.
That makes sense. Any tips for saving money on transportation?
Definitely. Traveling during those shoulder seasons can often save you money on flights and accommodations. And if you're flexible, look for budget airlines or check out train and bus options, which are often cheaper than flying.
Great advice. Okay, so we know the main expenses, accommodation, food, and transportation. But what if you're on a tight budget? Any ways to make the Camino a bit more, well, financially accessible?
There are always ways to stretch your budget. Try packing light, like we talked about, so you can avoid those checked baggage fees on flights. Use the shared kitchens in albergues to cook some of your own meals, and look out for those budget-friendly pilgrim menus in restaurants.
Those are all great tips, but what if you need a little extra financial help? Are there any resources out there for that?
There are. Some organizations offer grants or scholarships specifically for pilgrims. And crowdfunding can be a great way to, share your Camino dreams and connect with people who might want to support your journey.
Wow, you could even turn your Camino into a way to give back or raise awareness for a cause you believe in. That has a whole other layer of meaning to it.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And there are also ways to earn money while you're on the Camino, like volunteering at albergues or helping out local businesses. It's about being resourceful and creative.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered the routes, the timing, the packing, and the budget. We're all set, right?
Almost.
Yeah,
We still need to figure out how to actually navigate this incredible journey.
right. We're packed, we're ready, but how do we actually find our way on these ancient paths? What are our options for navigation?
Well, you'll be glad to know you've got a mix of old school and modern tools at your disposal. First off, never underestimate the power of a good old-fashioned printed map.
Ooh, I love a good map. There's something so satisfying about tracing your route and visualizing the journey ahead. But what about those of us who are a bit more tech savvy? Are there any high-tech tools that can help us navigate the Camino?
Oh, for sure. There are awesome apps made just for the Camino, like Wise Pilgrim and Camino Ninja. They've got detailed maps, GPS tracking, even info about albergues, restaurants, and stuff like that. And the best part, many of them work offline, which is super handy when you're in areas with bad internet.
So we can have the best of both worlds. We can use those trusty old maps and still have the convenience of modern technology. But what if our phone dies? Or our map takes an accidental swim in a river?
Well, that's when you turn to the traditional waymarking system of the Camino. Keep an eye out for the yellow arrows and those scallop shell symbols. They're everywhere, guiding pilgrims along the way. They've been doing that for centuries.
So even if technology fails us, the Camino itself will guide us. That's pretty reassuring, and I think I know what you're going to say next. One of the best navigation tools on the Camino is...
You got it. Other people.
I knew it. The power of community strikes again.
Seriously. The Camino is all about shared experiences, and that includes navigation. Don't be shy about talking to other pilgrims. Ask for directions, share tips, swap stories. You'll be amazed by how much you can learn from each other.
It's like a giant walking support system. And if you're the type who likes to connect before you even go, there are so many online forums and Facebook groups dedicated to the Camino. You can get advice from experienced pilgrims, find people to walk with, start building that sense of community before you even set foot on the trail.
Exactly. And remember, the Camino's about the journey, not just the destination. Enjoy those connections, those shared experiences, those unexpected detours along the way.
I'm really starting to get that sense. It's as much about the people you meet and the stories you share as it is about the actual miles you walk.
Speaking of stories, I'm curious about those scallop shell symbols. What's the story there? Why are they so important on the Camino?
So there are a few different legends about the scallop shell and how it's connected to the Camino.
Ooh, I love a good legend. Tell me more. One story says that after St. James died, his body was miraculously transported by boat to the coast of Galicia in Spain. And when the boat arrived, it was covered in scallop shells.
Whoa, that's incredible. So the scallop shell became a symbol of St. James and the pilgrimage to his shrine.
Exactly. And over time, it's become a universal symbol of the Camino itself, a sign that you're on the right path, literally and metaphorically.
Yeah.
You'll see scallop shells on backpacks, walking sticks, even embedded in the paths themselves.
I love that. It's like a little talisman, a symbol of hope and guidance.
Mhm.
We've talked a lot about navigating with maps, apps, and asking fellow pilgrims. But what about those times when you just want to disconnect? Just really immerse yourself in the experience. Is it okay to just let go and see where the path takes you?
That's the beauty of the Camino. It's your journey. There's no right or wrong way to do it. If you feel like wandering off the beaten path, exploring a side trail, or just sitting by a river and taking it all in, go for it.
So it's not just about reaching the destination, it's about those unexpected detours along the way.
Exactly. Those detours often lead to the most memorable experiences and the most meaningful connections.
So true. You're a big believer in preparation, but is there such a thing as over-preparing for the Camino? At what point does planning become counterproductive?
That's a great question, and it's something a lot of pilgrims struggle with.
Yeah.
I think the key is finding that balance between being prepared and leaving room for spontaneity. Don't get so caught up in planning every little detail that you forget to embrace the unexpected. Remember, the Camino is often about surrendering to the journey, letting it unfold naturally, and trusting that you'll have what you need along the way.
I love that surrendering to the journey. It's a good reminder that sometimes the best experiences are the ones we don't plan for.
Exactly. It's about being present, open to new possibilities, and trusting in the magic of the Camino to guide you.
I'm already feeling inspired. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the spiritual side of the Camino. Because for many pilgrims, this journey is about way more than just walking, right? What is it about the Camino that makes it such a powerful spiritual experience?
Well, for centuries, the Camino has been a spiritual path, drawing people from all walks of life, all faiths. It's a chance to connect with something bigger than yourself, to reflect on your life, your values, what you believe in.
What is it about the Camino that creates this space for spiritual growth? Is it the solitude, the connection with nature, the shared experience with other pilgrims?
It's a combination of all those things. There's something about the rhythm of walking, day after day, that just opens up space for introspection. You're putting one foot in front of the other, moving forward physically and metaphorically. And being surrounded by nature, whether it's the rolling hills, the mountains, or the coast, it grounds you, connects you to something bigger. And then there's that incredible sense of community that you find on the Camino. People from all over coming together, sharing, supporting each other. It's a powerful reminder of how much we all have in common.
It sounds like the Camino creates this perfect environment for self-discovery, for spiritual awakening, like a chance to strip away the noise of everyday life and connect with something deeper, something more meaningful.
Exactly. It's about simplifying, slowing down, and listening to that inner voice that often gets drowned out by the busyness of life.
Okay, chills. For someone who's considering doing the Camino but maybe feels a little hesitant, a little unsure if they're ready, what would you say to them?
I'd say trust your gut. If the Camino's calling to you, even if it's just a little spark of interest, don't ignore it. Do some research, talk to people who've done it, and most importantly, listen to your heart.
I love that. Trust your intuition. It's often that inner voice that guides us towards those experiences we're meant to have. And don't worry about being ready. The Camino has a way of preparing you as you go. We've talked a lot about the practical and spiritual sides of things, but there's obviously a physical element to this journey too. Walking for miles every day that can be tough on the body. What can you do to prepare yourself for that?
Well, it's important to start a walking routine well before you go. Gradually increase how far you walk and how much weight you carry. That'll build up your strength and endurance.
And what about once you're actually on the Camino? Any tips for taking care of your body? Those tired muscles, those weary feet.
Stretching. Stretching is your best friend. Make time to stretch every morning and evening and listen to your body. If you're in pain, don't try to push through it. Rest is just as important as walking.
That makes sense. We talked about footwear earlier, but are there any other essential items that every pilgrim should pack to stay comfortable and healthy?
Aside from those comfy, broken-in boots or shoes, a few things come to mind. A good backpack is crucial. Make sure it fits well and distributes weight evenly. Look for features like adjustable straps, a hip belt, and good ventilation to keep you comfortable on those long days.
And remember, pack light. We talked about that earlier.
Right. Every ounce counts. And speaking of ounces, a reusable water bottle is a must. You'll be refilling it constantly. It's also a great way to reduce plastic waste.
What about clothing? What should we pack to be ready for, all kinds of weather?
Layers are key. You want to be prepared for everything. A lightweight, breathable base layer, a fleece or sweater for warmth, and a waterproof, windproof outer layer. Those are essentials.
And don't forget a hat and gloves for those chilly mornings and evenings.
Absolutely. And here's a pro tip. Pack a pair of light, quick-drying shorts. You'll be glad you have them for those hot afternoons when you just need a break from those long pants.
Okay, I'm writing that down. Shorts for hot afternoons, brilliant. What about those little things that can make a big difference in terms of comfort and just being prepared?
A headlamp is essential. You'll need it for those early mornings and late evenings, especially if you're staying in albergs, where they usually have lights out around 10 p.m. A small, lightweight towel is also a must-have for drying off after a shower or a rainstorm.
And I always recommend a small first aid kit, just in case.
Well,
Better safe than sorry.
you're absolutely right. And don't forget sunscreen, bug spray, and a good lip balm. The sun and the elements can be pretty harsh out there.
Those are great reminders. Now let's talk about something near and dear to my heart, food. Any tips for eating well and staying fueled on the Camino?
We talked about those delicious and budget-friendly pilgrim menus earlier. They're a great way to get a taste of the local cuisine. But if you're going to be cooking some of your own meals, it's important to pack smart and think about nutrition.
Okay, so what kind of snacks should we pack to keep our energy levels up?
Trail mix is always a winner. It's a good source of protein, healthy fats, and carbs. And energy bars, especially those with nuts and seeds, can give you a quick boost when you need it.
And for those of us who like a little morning ritual, what are some good breakfast options for the Camino?
Oatmeal is a fantastic choice. It's full of fiber and nutrients that will keep you feeling full and energized. You can add nuts, seeds, or dried fruit for extra flavor and nutrients.
Delicious and nutritious. Now, let's talk about something that can be tricky on the Camino laundry. How do you keep your clothes clean when you're constantly on the move?
Most albertos have laundry facilities, so you can usually wash your clothes along the way.
But what if you're staying somewhere without laundry facilities?
Then it's time to get creative. You can hand wash your clothes in the sink or even in a river if you need to. Just make sure you're using biodegradable soap. Oh, and pack a clothesline or some kind of drying rack.
Great tips. Now, I know we've covered a lot, but there's one more topic I want to touch on: safety. While the Camino's generally safe and welcoming, it's always smart to be prepared.
You're right. And when it comes to safety, it's all about being aware of your surroundings, trusting your instincts, and taking some basic precautions.
So, what are some specific safety tips for pilgrims?
First and foremost, always let someone know where you're going. Whether it's a friend or family member back home or the staff at your albergue, make sure someone knows your itinerary and when to expect you.
Good advice. What about walking alone? Is that safe?
Lots of people walk the Camino solo, and many people find it to be a very safe and empowering experience. But if you are walking alone, it's especially important to be aware of your surroundings and trust your gut. If something feels off, don't hesitate to change your plans or ask for help.
And what about valuables? Should we be worried about theft?
Well, just like any travel destination, it's smart to take precautions. Keep your important documents, passport, money close to your body in a money belt or a secure pocket. Don't leave your belongings unattended.
What about those times when you're walking in a more remote area and you don't see anyone for miles? Any tips for staying safe in those situations?
It's a good idea to carry a whistle or a noisemaker just in case you need to signal for help. And if you're feeling uneasy, you can always call a taxi or a local bus to take you to the next town.
Great advice. It's all about having a plan and being prepared for anything. We've talked a lot about the practical side of the Camino, but let's go back to that spiritual aspect. Because for many pilgrims, the Camino is this incredibly transformative experience.
It really is. It's a chance to get away from your daily routine, connect with nature, meet new people, reflect on your life.
So, what can people do to really tap into that spiritual side of the Camino?
I think it's important to set an intention for your journey. Ask yourself, what do I hope to gain from this? What questions am I trying to answer? What do I want to let go of? What do I want to embrace?
That's a beautiful way to approach it with intention and purpose. Once you've set that intention, how do you stay connected to it?
There are lots of ways to do that. Some people like to keep a journal. It helps them process their thoughts and feelings. Others find comfort in prayer or meditation. And for some, it's just about being present in each moment. Soaking in the beauty, connecting with others.
And don't forget the power of silence. Those quiet moments can be so insightful.
Absolutely. Silence is a powerful tool for reflection and growth.
Now, I'm curious what happens after the Camino. How does this experience stay with you when you go back home? Does it change you in any way?
For many people, the Camino is truly life-changing. It can shift your perspective, make you more resilient, deepen your connection to yourself and the world around you.
So it's not just about those weeks you spend walking. It's about how it ripples out into your life afterward.
Exactly. The lessons you learn, the people you meet, the insights you gain, those stay with you.
That's really powerful. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive, choosing the right route, packing tips, navigating, embracing the spiritual side. But before we wrap up this first part, I have one last question for you. What is it about the Camino that keeps drawing people back year after year? What is it about this ancient pilgrimage that has such a universal appeal?
I think it's the simplicity of it all. It's about stripping away the distractions of modern life and reconnecting with something deeper, something more essential. It's about rediscovering those simple joys, the joy of movement, the joy of connection, the joy of being fully present.
It sounds like the Camino is a reminder that sometimes the most profound experiences are found in the simplest of things.
It really is.
Yeah.
And in a world that can feel so overwhelming and complex, that's a powerful message.
So true. I think we've laid a great foundation for understanding the Camino de Santiago. There's still so much more to explore, though.
There is. And we'll dive even deeper in the next part.
I can't wait.
Welcome back. I'm so excited to dig into some of the more, the unique things about the Camino experience. We've talked about all the practical stuff, but what about those unexpected moments, the stories that happen along the way?
You're so right. It seems like everyone comes back from the Camino with all these stories. Moments of joy, moments of challenge, those like serendipitous connections. What are some of the stories that have really stuck with you? The ones that really capture what the Camino is all about?
One that comes to mind is about this woman I met on the Camino Frances. She was in her late 60s walking solo, and she was carrying this little kind of worn out teddy bear in her backpack.
Oh, that's so sweet. What was the story behind the teddy bear?
Well, I was curious too. So one night we were at an Elberich sharing a meal, because bread, cheese, some wine. And I asked her about it. Her eyes just lit up. And she told me the bear belonged to her grandson. He'd passed away a few years earlier. She was walking the Camino in his memory, carrying the bear as a way to feel like he was still with her.
Oh, wow. That's heartbreaking, but also so beautiful. It sounds like the Camino gave her a way to grieve, to heal, to connect with other people.
Yeah, it did. She said walking every day, being in nature, surrounded by the kindness of strangers, it helped her feel closer to her grandson and find some peace.
I can see how the Camino could be such a powerful space for healing. It's about so much more than just the physical journey.
Exactly. It's about finding meaning and purpose, even when life gets hard.
Okay, I'm getting chills again. So we've got the teddy bear story, which is so powerful and emotional. What other gems have you picked up along the way?
Okay, so this one's less about, like, deep meaning and more about those fun moments that make you laugh on the trail. I was walking the Camino del Norte, and it was one of those days, My feet were killing me. I was soaked from head to toe because it started pouring out of nowhere. And I was starting to wonder why I even thought this was a good idea.
Haha, I can definitely relate to that. Even the most amazing journeys have their tough moments. So what happened?
So I'm trudging along, feeling sorry for myself, and I come across this group of pilgrims gathered around this makeshift stage in a field. I was intrigued, so I went to see what was going on.
Ooh, a pop-up stage in the middle of nowhere. What was happening?
It turned out to be these traveling musicians. They were putting on a concert just for pilgrims. They were playing traditional Galician music, bagpipes, fiddles, the whole deal. And they had so much energy.
Okay, now I need to see a video of this. Bagpipes and fiddles on the Camino. That's amazing.
It was such a surprise. Everyone was clapping, singing, dancing, even those of us who could barely move our feet.
It sounds like such a good reminder that even when things are tough, there's always room for joy, for celebration.
Exactly. It's about embracing those moments of lightness, those bursts of joy that make the journey so special.
I'm sold. The Camino is officially at the top of my bucket list. We talked before about how the Camino is often walked solo. And while there's something really appealing about that solitude, what about those of us who are, a little more outgoing? Are there opportunities to connect with people and form those Camino bonds?
Oh, absolutely. The Camino is a magnet for social butterflies. Even if you start out walking solo, you'll end up surrounded by like-minded people. It's
Mm.
almost impossible not to connect when you're sharing meals, walking side by side, swapping stories under the stars.
So it's like a built-in social network, but without all the pressure of social media or the distractions of everyday life.
Exactly. It's about that genuine connection, sharing your hopes, your fears, your dreams with people who actually want to listen,
Mm.
people who get it.
I can totally see why people say the Camino is life-changing. It just seems to strip away all those layers and create space for real human connection. You've said a few times that there's no right or wrong way to do the Camino, but for those who are really looking for that deeper connection, that transformation, what advice would you give them?
I'd say go into it with an open heart and an open mind. Be willing to try new things, to embrace the unknown,
Hmm.
and trust the process.
It's about letting go of expectations and just allowing the Camino to unfold, right?
That's it. And be open to connecting with all kinds of people. Don't be afraid to strike up a conversation with the person next to you, share a meal with someone you just met, listen to their story, and share yours.
It's about embracing those random encounters, those chance meetings that can turn into lasting friendships.
It happens all the time on the Camino. You never know who you'll meet or what kind of impact those connections will have.
Okay, I'm really starting to get a sense of the magic of this whole thing. It's the journey, the people, the unexpected moments along the way. But what about those times when it just feels too hard? When you're exhausted physically and emotionally, and you're like, why did I ever sign up for this? How do you get through those moments of doubt?
Those are the moments when the true spirit of the Camino comes through. Because when you're feeling your weakest, that's when you realize you're not alone. There's always someone there to offer a hand, a kind word, a laugh to lighten things up.
It's that sense of community, of everyone being in it together. That's what helps you keep going.
You got it. And sometimes it's just about changing your focus. Instead of dwelling on how much your feet hurt, take a minute to appreciate the beauty around you. The sounds, the smells, the feeling of the sun on your skin.
It's about finding those moments of gratitude even when things are tough.
Exactly. And remember, every step you take, no matter how small, is a step closer to your goal.
And the goal isn't just Santiago, it's about the journey itself.
That's it. Every blister, every ache, every challenge, it's all part of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's those challenges that make the good parts even better.
So true. Now, I want to talk about something that's often overlooked, but it's just as important as the physical and spiritual stuff, the mental game. Walking for days, weeks, or even months can be really tough mentally. How do you stay mentally strong and motivated on a journey like this?
I think it's important to break it down. Don't focus on the whole thing. Just think about today, the next town, the next landmark. Don't let the whole massive pilgrimage overwhelm you.
Like that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Exactly. And celebrate those little victories along the way. Did you reach a tough summit? Did you treat yourself to a great meal? Did you have an awesome conversation with a fellow pilgrim? Take a moment to acknowledge those things. Give yourself a pat on the back.
It's about those small wins that keep us going, those little moments that remind us why we're doing this. And what about those times when those negative thoughts start to creep in, when doubt starts to cloud your mind?
That's when you need some mental tools. Listening to music, repeating a positive mantra, focusing on your breathing. Figure out what works for you and use it to change your mindset.
So it's like having a mental toolbox for those moments of self-doubt, right?
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite go-to tools?
One of my favorites is this simple mindfulness practice. I'll find a quiet spot on the trail, close my eyes, and focus on my breath. It's a great way to calm my mind, connect with my body, and just be present.
That sounds so peaceful and grounding, and you can do it anywhere, anytime.
Exactly. It's a nice reminder that even in the middle of all the challenges, there's always a sense of peace and stillness inside us. We just have to take a moment to tune in.
I love that. And it really speaks to the bigger message of the Camino. It's not just about reaching the destination, it's about that inner journey. It's about finding that peace and resilience within ourselves. We've talked about the physical, the mental, the spiritual. But what about the emotional side of the Camino? You're walking day after day, out in the elements, often far from your comfort zone.
Yeah, the Camino can be quite the emotional ride. There will be moments of pure joy and exhilaration, but also moments of frustration, loneliness, even anger. It's like the whole human experience just turned up a notch.
So, how do you handle all those emotional ups and downs?
The key is to let yourself feel it all. Don't try to push those emotions down. Acknowledge them, honor them, and then let them go.
It's about embracing all of it, the good, the bad, the joy, the sorrow.
Exactly. And remember, you're not the only one feeling these things. Everyone on the Camino is going through their own emotional journey.
And those shared emotions, the highs and the lows, can be what really connects us.
Absolutely. It's in those vulnerable moments that real empathy and understanding grow.
And often those vulnerable moments lead to the deepest connections.
No doubt about it. Before we wrap up this part of our Camino deep dive, I want to make sure we touch on the practical stuff, like food and accommodation.
Yes, good point. We've talked about budget-friendly choices like albergues and those pilgrim menus, but I'd love to hear a bit more about them. Let's start with albergues. What are your tips for making the most of the albergue experience?
Albergues are really the heart of the Camino community. They're like this amazing mix of cultures, languages, and life stories.
It sounds incredible, but I can also see how it could be a little overwhelming, especially if you're new to the whole albergue thing. What should people expect? How can you make sure it's a good experience?
Good questions. The first thing is to get there early, especially during busy times. Albergues work on a first-come, first-served basis, and they can fill up fast.
Okay, noted. Get there early. What about noise? I'm kind of a light sleeper. Should I pack earplugs?
Earplugs are your best friend. Seriously, bring a good pair. Albergues can be pretty noisy, with people coming and going all night long. And even though some have quiet hours, it's always good to be prepared.
Good tip. Earplugs are going on the list. What about the shared kitchens? Any advice for navigating those?
The shared kitchens in albergues are a great place to connect with other pilgrims, swap recipes, and make some tasty meals without spending a lot of money. The key is to be mindful of others and practice good kitchen etiquette.
So, what are the golden rules for albergue kitchen etiquette?
Label your food clearly so no one accidentally grabs the wrong thing. Clean up after yourself. Wash your dishes. Wipe down the counters. And be respectful of other people's space and their time in the kitchen.
Basically, be considerate and treat the space like you would treat your own kitchen.
Exactly. And if you're feeling generous, offer to share some of what you've made. Food is a great way to break the ice and connect with other pilgrims.
I love that. Sharing food is such a universal language. Okay, so we've covered albergues. What about those nights when you just need a little more privacy or a break from bunk beds?
No problem. There are tons of other options along the Camino, from cozy guest houses to nicer hotels. These will give you more comfort and privacy, and they often come with extras like private bathrooms, breakfast, even a swimming pool sometimes.
That sounds amazing, but I bet those options are a bit more expensive.
They are. But it's all about finding what works for your budget and what level of comfort you're looking for. Some people like to splurge on a night or two in a hotel as a treat.
I like that strategy. It's like giving yourself a little reward along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, the Camino is a journey of self-discovery. That includes figuring out what you need to feel your best.
Okay, so we've covered albergues, other places to stay, and those pilgrim menus. What about the must-have items that can really make or break your Camino experience? Anything we haven't mentioned yet?
You know, we've talked a lot about practical stuff, but one thing that's really important is a journal and a pen. The Camino is all about self-reflection. Having a place to write down your thoughts, your feelings, those moments when something clicks, it's so valuable.
I love that. A journal is like a way to capture those fleeting thoughts and feelings that come up when you're out in nature, away from all the distractions.
Right, it's like having a conversation with yourself, a way to understand your experiences and learn more about who you are.
It's a special souvenir, too, a reminder of the journey and how you've changed.
Exactly. And speaking of souvenirs, make sure you bring a little backpack or tote bag for all those treasures you'll find along the way.
That makes sense. I can already picture myself going through all those cute shops in the villages, picking up little mementos.
That's part of the fun. And it's a great way to support local artists. You get to bring home a little piece of the Camino magic.
Okay, so we've got our journals, our souvenir bags, and our open hearts. What else should we keep in mind as we get ready for this incredible journey?
Like we've been talking about, the Camino is this amazing journey of self-discovery. It's a pilgrimage that helps you connect with something deeper, something more meaningful.
It's a chance to step out of your comfort zone, be open to new experiences, and trust the journey.
Exactly. And as you start this adventure, remember to be present. Savor the beauty of the landscapes, the warmth of the sun, the taste of the food. Connect with your fellow pilgrims, listen to their stories, and share yours.
It's about embracing those unexpected moments, finding joy and connection, and letting the Camino work its magic.
Exactly. And don't forget to have fun. It's a challenging journey, but it's also an incredibly joyful one.
It's so true. I'm already feeling so inspired and ready to start planning my own Camino adventure. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have one last question. What would you say to someone who's thinking about doing the Camino but is feeling a bit nervous or unsure about taking the leap?
I would say trust yourself, trust your gut, trust that you are stronger than you think you are, and most importantly, trust that the Camino will meet you exactly where you are and guide you to exactly where you need to be.
That's such a beautiful message. It's a reminder that sometimes the most transformative journeys begin with just one step, a leap of faith, a willingness to embrace the unknown.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And the Camino is the perfect setting for that journey. It's got a supportive community, breathtaking landscapes, and an ancient path that has been guiding pilgrims for centuries.
I can't wait to experience it for myself. It's funny, as we've been talking about all this stuff packing lists, albergs, all that, I keep thinking back to those stories about connection, about how people come together on the Camino. It really seems like it's baked into the whole experience.
Oh, it totally is. It's something you can't really understand until you're out there. Walking the path, sharing meals, swapping stories under the stars. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, like a reminder that we're all in this together, walking our own paths, but side by side. We've talked about listening to your body, taking rest days, pacing yourself, but what about those days when you're just wiped, body and mind? When every step feels like a marathon, how do you push through that?
Those days happen, but they're also the days when the Camino really shows you what it's all about. Because when you're at your lowest point, when you feel like giving up, that's when you realize you're not alone. There's always someone there to help you. A kind word, a helping hand, a shared laugh to make things a little easier.
It's that sense of community, knowing you're not the only one struggling.
Exactly. And sometimes it's just about shifting your focus. Stop thinking about how much your feet hurt and look around you. Listen to the birds, smell the wildflowers, feel the sun.
Yeah, finding those little moments of gratitude, even when things are tough.
That's it. And remember, every step you take, even if it's the hardest step ever, is a step closer to your goal.
And it's not just about getting to Santiago, it's about the whole journey.
Right. The blisters, the aches, the doubts, it's all part of it. And it's those tough parts that make the victories so much sweeter.
So true. We've talked about the physical side, the spiritual side, the emotional side, but I want to touch on something we haven't really talked about directly, the mental game. Walking for days on end, it can be really challenging mentally. How do you stay strong and motivated on such a long journey?
You have to break it down into smaller pieces. Focus on that day, the next town, the next landmark. Don't let the whole huge thing overwhelm you.
It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Exactly. And don't forget to celebrate those small wins. Did you make it to the top of a tough hill? Did you have an amazing meal? Did you have a great conversation with someone? Take a minute to appreciate those things.
Yeah, it's those little things that keep you going, those little moments that remind you why you're doing this. But what about when the negative thoughts come? The self-doubt.
You got to have some mental tools ready for those moments. Music, positive affirmations, focusing on your breath, whatever works for you. Use it to shift your mindset.
So it's like a mental toolbox for those moments of self-doubt. What are some of the things you use?
One of my favorites is a simple mindfulness exercise. I'll find a quiet spot, close my eyes, and focus on my breath. It just calms my mind, gets me back in my body, and helps me be present.
It sounds really relaxing, and you can do it anywhere.
Exactly.
Mm.
And it's a good reminder that even when things are hard, there's always that peace and stillness inside us. We just have to remember to tap into it.
Love that. And I think it speaks to the bigger picture of the Camino. It's not just about the physical journey, it's about that journey inward. It's about finding that peace and strength within. Speaking of which, we've talked about all these different layers, the physical, the mental, the spiritual. But what about the emotional roller coaster of it all? Walking for days, being out in the elements, being away from your comfort zone.
Yeah, for sure. The Camino is an emotional journey, big time. There'll be times of pure joy and excitement, but also times of frustration, loneliness, maybe even anger. It's the whole human experience, amplified.
So, how do you deal with all of that? The emotional highs and lows?
The most important thing is to just let yourself feel it. Don't try to bottle it up or ignore it. Let those emotions come, acknowledge them, and let them go.
Embrace it all, the good and the bad.
Right. And you're not alone. Every single person on the Camino is going through their own emotional stuff. And there's a real sense of understanding and connection that comes from that shared experience.
Yeah, it's like those moments of vulnerability. Those are the things that really connect us as humans.
That's it, exactly. In those moments when we're being real with each other, that's when we see ourselves in each other. That's when we realize how connected we all are.
Okay, we've covered so much ground in this Camino deep dive. But before we say Buen Camino and send our listeners off on their own adventures, what's the one piece of advice you'd give someone who's about to embark on this journey?
Be open to the unexpected. The Camino is all about letting go. Let go of your expectations and let the path unfold. Trust that you'll be guided, supported, and changed in ways you never thought possible.
Trust the magic of the Camino.
Exactly. And don't forget to have some fun along the way. Embrace those moments of laughter, those chance encounters, those unexpected detours. Those are often the things that make the best memories.
I think we've given our listeners everything they need to start planning their own Camino adventures.
I think so too.
Hmm.
We've talked about the practical stuff, the challenges, the rewards, and most importantly, how this ancient pilgrimage can change your life.
So, to all our listeners out there, we say Buen Camino. May your journey be filled with joy, connection, and amazing self-discovery.
Buen Camino. And until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep following those paths that light you up.